Hello everybody and welcome back to First Ring Daily, where I forgot to charge my laptop and you may not be able to see the charging cord, but it's right here charging this machine because that's what I didn't do yesterday.
Huh. Sounds like you need an always connected PC, my friend. I don't know. No?
And today's show is brought to you by Cloudberry Lab. Check them out at cloudberrylab.com/FRD for a free trial offer and learn how to back up your data to any cloud to do it in just a little bit better. Anyways, speaking of changing PCs, but how about changing venues? Because that's what Microsoft is apparently doing. You like that one? It's apparently what
Not
Microsoft
really.
is doing. This is their promo image of what E3 is going to look like. It's even going to be clear blue skies, according to
Yeah, I
them.
don't know if you remember that place, but that used to be called the Nokia Theater, and it's right across the street from the Los Angeles Convention Center, which is where PDC used to be, and from the Staples Center, which is where the
Which I think that was the last
Lakers
time I was
play.
in LA.
Hmm?
I think PDC was the last time I was in LA.
yeah, probably me too. It's been a long time. I keep pushing for them to go back to LA. I really like downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, they are now with, I guess,
Well,
well, they've
E3's
always been
there,
there with
but-
E3, I guess. But
Yeah.
so is that all they're doing? Is they're just moving to this?
Well, this is to me is kind of a monumental change when you think about it, right? So, in collaboration with the show owners of E3, they are going to move their primary place outside of the convention center to their own facility, which is across the street. And I think what this is going to allow them to do is reach a broader audience. I bet they're going to open this thing to basically anybody who wants to come by and see what they're doing. It kind of makes me wonder if we're going to see little mini cities around the convention center, for Sony and Nintendo, whatever, in the future. But Microsoft happens to own this facility because they bought Nokia years ago. So totally paid off.
Making lemonade.
Yeah. So I guess they're still going to have something, at least some booth space in the convention center. But the fact that their primary experience is going to be outside the convention center that's really interesting.
Yeah, you're gonna walk into Xbox World,
Yeah, basically, yeah.
which will be interesting to see what they're gonna do. Obviously, they are upping their budget, which means that they are investing more into gaming. Which is, you can thank Mr. Spencer for that. And
Yeah.
yep, it'll be here. I'm sure that'll be a little bit more green than what they're showing
Yes.
off in this image.
It's kind of a stylized photo, but it's a nice place.
Yeah. So you can be looking forward to that. If you are in Europe, I keep going to Paul instead of me. If you're in Europe or the Middle East, you can be looking forward to new Microsoft. This is actually interesting from a couple things. Microsoft Cloud data centers. They used to just call them Azure data centers at one point, but in the press release that they shipped out, Microsoft is going to be building two new regions, one in the Middle East, one in Switzerland, where they made a tie into the banking industry, which I'm sure they're going to be helping to do those types of banking activities the Swiss are known
Launder funds
for.
and whatnot.
Yeah. And then the other one's going to be in the UAE. And they always refer to this stuff now as Microsoft Cloud as opposed to Azure. I wonder if they're trying to push Microsoft Cloud as the proper marketing message now instead of...
Ooh. Yeah, names are changing again, maybe.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. Microsoft Cloud is more than Azure, for sure.
Yep. So, if you that sounds great to you, you have some of this stuff will be coming online in 2018, and looks like more likely in 2019. Once all their announced regions come online, that will bring them up to 50. I believe they're at 38 currently, with 12 announced. So
They're going to have more regions than Microsoft retail stores soon. Huh?
wow.
Huh?
Well, I think it's fair to say that the data centers see more foot traffic than the retail. So,
Wow. Wow. See, I left that one vague, and you had to just hone it in.
I wanted to make sure the user knew exactly,
Yeah.
the listener, knew exactly where you were taking that one. Yeah. And then other things that Microsoft is doing, they announced security updates this week. And if you are the lucky owner of a Kaby Lake or Coffee Lake processor, the updates to protect you from Spectre and Meltdown are now in the Microsoft catalog, but they can only be installed, I believe, on version Windows 10 1709, or I assume that 1803 once that ships here in the next 4 to 5 weeks.
Yep.
And Paul, word on the street, and by word on the street, I mean the blog roll already said this. You have a new laptop.
Yeah, I got a ThinkPad X1 Carbon. This is perennially one of my favorite laptops. It's been updated in meaningful ways. It's great. That's funny. The sad thing is they actually have like a 4K HDR version of this, and I didn't get that unfortunately.
Oh,
But can you imagine? So someday, we saw it at CES, but someday, hopefully, I'll be able to review that kind of display. But even in its current form, this thing it's incredible. And so they've kept everything that works. They've made some subtle design cues. You may recall when we saw them at CES, I pointed one out, and the guy said, "You're the only person that has even noticed that." And I was like, "I know, I love these things." Like,
he's not lying.
it's a beautiful, beautiful device.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There's like a
Actually,
whole lot of good stuff and a lot of nothing going on right now.
Yeah. So the Samsung Galaxy S9 is launching on Friday. Mine is supposedly arriving today. So if that happens on schedule, I will have first impressions of that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Google Routines kind of started shipping this week, and it's like the biggest non-event. I've been waiting for this for like 6 months. And in its initial form, it is fairly lackluster. So, enjoy that if you're a Google Assistant guy.
Philips Hue, which I'm actually looking forward to this one. Philips Hue announced earlier this week some outdoor light bulbs, which I more than likely am going to spend stupid amount of money on just because they work incredibly well.
Yeah, I mean, this is a slightly lame usage, but Halloween comes around, you can make them orange. Christmas comes around, you can make them green and red. Like that kind of effects lighting is actually kind of cool. Like I actually saved a story about that. I might write about that as well. I've completely zoned on what I was. Oh, the other thing is, like, I'm not going to write about this, but you and I have discussed this kind of vaguely in the past. Like Modern Warfare and the remastered version of Modern Warfare had that cool Christmas level. Remember, they redressed a level so it had Christmas lights and stuff. I guess they've been doing that with other games. So actually, let me think. It was that same game, Modern Warfare Remastered. They did a remake of a night level as a day level, and it was all like green for St. Patrick's Day and had St. Patrick's Day dressing. I think Downpour, I think was the name of it. So that's kind of cool. And so for Call of Duty World War II, they've released a classic map I think it's called Shipment. It's the one with all the container boxes.
Ooh.
Dressed as a goofy leprechaun kind of thing. Actually, I think I have this up here. Yeah. There's let me see if I can find this. This sounds slightly racist. I'm laughing because you'll see why.
Always a good qualifier.
I know. Let's not let that sit. Let me just explain it. There's a new game type for St. Patrick's Day called Leprechaun Hunt Mosh Pit. It's like, I don't know. Do you hunt the leprechaun? Is that really what we're doing? I haven't tried it, but yeah. Anyway, if you're a Call of Duty fan, they've added a bunch of stuff for St. Patrick's Day for some reason. It's something they do sometimes.
There we go. Maybe they I was going to say getting into the spirit of it, but
yeah, it makes no sense. It makes no sense.
No, it really doesn't. But you know what? Nor do a lot of the things that we do make a lot of sense, Paul.
It's true. Well, I mean, it's not like they celebrate it's not like we're going to have like a Flag Day level or like a, whatever other holidays might come along. Like randomly, they do something around the winter. There's always a winter something. Like they did a winter Carentan this year, which was awesome and is still in effect right now. And then they for some reason they do this spring / St. Patrick's Day thing every year. I don't know why, but they are really into St. Patrick's Day.
Speaking of spring, it would be nice if it would stop snowing. I know many of you sent me pictures of like the feet of snow at your house if you live in the Northeast. I got a dusting, but that's still too much to not go golfing, and I am ready to move.
I would have made fun. I saw you kind of complained about the snow, and of course you had a picture of like snow flurries, and I almost made fun of you for that. But I feel like weather is like a lot of things in life. It's relative, like if my vision is poor and I complain about it, someone could always come around and say, yeah, but I'm, perfectly blind. Like, I have it worse than you do. And it's like, I understand, but my particular condition is still my particular condition. And I will say, I grew up in New England, obviously lived there most of my life. I understand how bad winter can be. we have not had the levels of snowfall that I experienced in Boston this year. But this winter was still one of the worst winters I've ever had. Like, it's been miserable. And so I found myself actually kind of agreeing with you. Like, I just enough. Like, it snowed here too. Same thing like you got. It's gone already. It's, but it's still like freezing out, and it has snowed possibly a dozen times this winter. Like, it's been kind of strange.
One of the
like
favorite activities we do, or whatever you want to call it, is that especially now that the sun stays up at least here until almost 8 o'clock, is that we would typically grill out, and then we'd eat dinner, and then we just go walk around the neighborhood. There's tons of kids and all that stuff. And so like my daughter starts to understand this now. She's like, Daddy, it's still light outside. We can go outside. I'm like, yeah, but it's 32 degrees. Like,
yeah. No, even the dog, like our dog will sort of give her own version of this, which is, she gets all excited to go outside, and then she gets out there and it's freezing, and she does a little circle and goes right back to the door. I went out just today because she went out for her run. Stephanie came back with her and said, she's like, the dog went the short way. She like would not go the longer way. She actually sat down until I went the other way. She wouldn't do it. And so normally, like if you go toward a door in my house, the dog comes flying off the couch and can't wait to go outside. So I went out to put the cover back on the grill because it was going to blow away. And it is like 30-something degrees outside. It's freezing. I opened the door. The dog is right next to the door when I do this. Put the grill cover on, came back in. She never even lifted her head. She's like, you're on your own. I'm not. I want nothing to do with it out there. And that's kind of how you know. Like, I mean, she's covered in fur. She should be fine. But she's like, nope. No thanks.
It's not happening this time around. Well.
Yeah.
Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, as my daughter would try to mumble out of her mouth.
It's a delightful phrase for a kid to say.
So I picked her up from school yesterday, and she gets in the car, and she's like, Daddy, I taught myself a new word today. I'm like, oh, great, what is it? And she said, it's Scooby-Doo. I'm like, what? Like, who told you that? She's like, I just made it up. I'm like, I don't think you did. I don't think you just made up Scooby-Doo.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yep. So you got anything else for today, Bo?
No, it's going to be a busy day for me. I got stuff to write, Windows Weekly, blah, 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 hopefully the phone. So how about you, Brad?
I'm actually curious to see how you think of the S9. It's going to be a good phone. I don't think that's a question. Is it
is it good enough for me to...
Yeah.
To make a big change. Maybe.
Specifically the camera, too, because they made a big deal of that aperture stuff. I want to know how it compares to, obviously, the Pixel, or the Pixel 2. We know that camera is fantastic, but everything else about that phone is garbage. So if they get there.
Sorry. I don't know why. I suspect that the camera is going to be great, right? I also suspect that we're going to look back on this aperture thing the same way we look back on the 2x optical zoom in the iPhone 7, which is that's cute that they did that, but in the future, this is going to be way more sophisticated. Optical zoom, obviously, it's not hard to imagine there'll be 4x, 8x, whatever, as we go. But for the aperture thing, this thing is hard coded to 2 aperture size, opening sizes or whatever, aperture sizes. It's automatic. I don't think you can, adjust it manually. I think the phone just does it. And I think the future of this is going to be variable aperture, and for people who want more professional settings, the ability to choose how that works. And I don't have it yet, so maybe I'm wrong about the manual automatic part, but it is a fact that there are only 2 aperture sizes. So it seems like the natural evolution of that will be more and then just variable across a range.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if that actually does happen, because there's 2 ways this is going to shake out. One, you're spot on and it goes completely down that route. Or it turns out that actually having a mechanical shutter in a phone is a terrible idea and it just breaks. And people realize...
Oh, okay. Yeah. By the way, it could be a terrible idea for a different reason. And I don't know if I explained this on this podcast before, but if you've been around me and you've seen the photos that I can take with the Google phones where you're in a very dark setting and maybe there's a lamp that's lit on the table and that's the only light in the room. And if you look at that and you focus on the lamp, the rest of the room gets really dark. The light in the lamp is what is accentuated, and you get this really nice contrasty kind of HDR picture. I've taken outdoor shots at night that are astonishing in various cities. And then indoor shots, you can take pictures in a bar, like of a glass of scotch or whatever. You highlight the scotch, the whole place lights up. It's beautiful. The point behind the aperture thing, though, is, if I'm not mistaken, is the opposite of that. In other words, the camera is going to look at the scene, and say, this is too dark. We're going to go to the wider aperture.
Yeah.
We're going to let more light into the camera, and we're going to take a picture that most people would say is better, meaning more evenly lit and well lit. And honestly, that's not what I'm looking for in most low light conditions. I really like the way that the Google phones in particular do that. It's the biggest strength, I think, of the camera, frankly. And so, yeah, I'm going to look at this, but I'm curious because this might be an interesting example of the best thing in general might not be the thing that I want, personally.
Well, we will find out, hopefully in 24 to 48 hours.
Yes, hopefully. You're right. I'll have to wait for dark to fall or whatever, but yeah, I'll test that.
Well, there we go. I don't know. I was trying to think of something witty, but I just ran a blank.
So
that about wraps it up for today's folks. I had no cavities at the dentist. Thanks of those for you who were asking. Not that anybody actually did. But anyways, today's show is brought to you by Cloudberry Lab. Check them out, cloudberrylab.com/FRD, and learn how to protect yourself against ransomware on anybody else's cloud. And we'll catch you right back here tomorrow on First Ring Daily. It's not a live show because it's Thursday, and I almost said it was. Have a good day.